AIM-listed European Green Transition, Epicode EGT, listed on AIM back in April 2024 and has significantly outperformed its peer group since the IPO. The company is a developer of green economy assets in Europe and has been set up to capitalise on the opportunity created by the green energy transition and the EU Critical Minerals Directive. Chief Executive Aiden Lavelle and Chief Finance Officer Jack Kelly both join us today. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Very good.
Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Good to see you both. Good to see you both. So EGT most recently announced full year results, which included a pretty impressive list of achievements and highlights since the IPO. In particular, the Ahlstrom rare earth project in Sweden, which is 100% owned by the company, has announced a raft of positive results over the past few months. Aiden, to you first. How are things progressing there as we speak?
Yeah, things are progressing very well at Ahlstrom. It's developing into a very exciting rare earth project, one of the few in Europe that has a significant rare earth resource. And since we acquired the project early last year, we've done a lot of work. We recognized from our initial core review during the due diligence period that there was a lot of upside to the project and a new exploration model to be followed. And then when we started the field work, started mapping and sampling, we actually were able to deliver on that and really expand the scale of the system. So just immediately west of the historic resource, we discovered a new zone of outcropping mineralization with broad outcrops of rare earth mineralization, about between 200 and 400 meters northwest of the resource, and then a further 2 kilometers northwest of the resource. We've outlined an area at the Djupedal prospect, which is now 1 kilometer long in strike length, and we've been sampling some very high-grade mineralization there. So around the historic magnetite iron dumps at Djupedal, we found some very high-grade mineralization ranging from a couple of percent up to 20% total rare earth oxide, which is very high. And then we've also sampled some very encouraging mineralization over the full kilometer strike length at the Djupedal prospect, including some very good channel sample results, between 3 and 4 meters in excess of 1.5%. And in addition to that, we found new mineralized shear zone targets in the vicinity. So it really is growing into a district scale rare earth mineralized system. And our competitor adjacent to us, which is Ragnar Metals, they've also been finding more rare earth mineralization in the district. So there's a lot of upside to the project and to the resource in terms of scale and grade. And we look forward to the drilling program, which aims to prove that in the third dimension, get more information. We'll essentially be drilling under mineralized outcrops. So it's a low risk drill program in that sense, but has the potential to really show district scale potential for the project.
Excellent. So that drilling program is due to start in the second half of the year. What's the timescale for that drill program?
Yeah, well, we're already into the second half now, so I can say it will be in the current quarter. We have teams preparing for that. We're, I think, in good position now to commence drilling in the near term.
Excellent. Okay, well, of course, European Green Transition has a raft of projects within the portfolio. You've also recently announced an option for a copper tailings project in Cyprus back in April. How is that shaping up?
We took a 12-month option on the old Limni mine in Cyprus, and this is really to meet our promise at IPO to deliver near-term revenues for the business. So we know tailings is obviously a good industry to be in. We've seen the success of Jubilee Metals in the tailings space, and also, with the EU Critical Raw Materials Act mandating that 25% of resources should come from recycling, and we see a tailings project in the EU as having huge potential. As well as that, this is a copper project, and obviously copper prices are very strong in the market. So we think it's a good spot to be in. Myself and Aiden were down on a site visit in May, and from that we walked into the pit and saw the copper enriched metals copper enriched water at surface. And we've started our diligence process over this project, which involved a sampling plan. We expect to get those results in the near future. and ultimately then building towards the next phase of diligence as we look to have a low cost water treatment plant and to extract copper from the water at the pit.
Excellent. And you've also mentioned, of course, there is potential for a solar energy project there too. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I can jump in there. There's definitely a lot of potential for solar energy in Cyprus. It's one of the European countries with the most solar irradiance. It's also 80% dependent on fossil fuels for its energy mix, with less than around 19% coming from renewable energies. So recently in June, the Cyprus government has made announcements to really increase renewable energy and set ambitious targets, and solar plays a big part in that. They believe they can achieve 40% of their energy from solar facilities by 2030. So the old Limney site is essentially an industrial site. It's a waste ground at present. There's plenty of flat ground there, good infrastructure in terms of high voltage power lines, and a, a substation at site, from the old days when there was mining there. So there's really good infrastructure, and we see great potential to turn that into a solar energy facility down the line. And we will work with local stakeholders and consultants and partners as well to potentially develop a facility like that.
And it's a great way to recycle an old mining area, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it puts old, unusable land really to a good use, and it also contributes to the local economy and improves the energy mix for Cyprus.
Of course, of course. Well, on to other projects now, notably the Alton Farm project. Of course, your recently announced carbon credit project, which I personally find very interesting because we are working with a client in the carbon credit space. How do you see that developing? Is that Jag? Is that to you, Jack?
Yeah, yeah, Alan, I can jump in here. So yeah, we've taken an option on the Alton farm in Donegal in the northwest of Ireland. So this is largely a peatland site. And in Ireland, there's 1.5 million hectares of peatland. Much of it has been degraded, exploited, damaged, and dried out over the last 150 years. And at the moment, a lot of it is leaking carbon into the atmosphere. So our plan is with Alton, it's the start of our carbon credit project where we look to rehabilitate these peatlands, ultimately to re-wet them, to raise the water table, to block the drains so that ultimately the peatland begins sequestering carbon or taking carbon out of the atmosphere and acts as a sponge. And then ultimately the goal is to generate carbon credits for that, which we can then sell on to third parties.
Of course, of course. Well, carbon credits, of course, have evolved yet again. Many of them are now backed by the blockchain as well. How do you see carbon credit projects per se fitting in with European green transition strategy of developing a portfolio of green economy assets?
Yeah, well, I think the Alton project ticks a lot of boxes for us. So I think from the start we wanted to be clear we're not we're not just solely a mining company. We have lots of other interests and areas in the green economy, such as our carbon credit project in Alton, and a key feature of that is the ability to generate near term revenue, which is a key focus of all of the things and all of our strategy in building out a portfolio of green economy assets. Why we like this is we've agreed a revenue share agreement with the landowner, so we won't be looking to acquire land, so we can keep this relatively capital efficient. It's also very scalable. As I said, there's a significant volume of peatland across Ireland, and we're looking to at other sites to scale this project significantly and ultimately generate more carbon credits, and we also see a huge interest from big tech corporates. I think a lot of it's been well documented, the rise in emissions from AI and other areas of the economy. So we think that the voluntary carbon credit market will grow significantly, and having a peatland project that can generate carbon credits in a market such as Ireland, where there's there's more trust in the project actually existing and being verified to a high standard. We think it's a very attractive proposition.
Excellent. Well, a really exciting future from that element of the EGT portfolio. Gentlemen, before we wrap up, in the full year results announcement, Aiden, you stated the company, and I'll quote, remained very active in our pursuit of further opportunities as Europe progresses in its green transition. We see numerous undervalued assets. How many other projects do you expect to bring in over the next, say, 6 months to a year?
Well, that will depend on what sort of projects we can find. As Jack mentioned, we have a lot of work going on the carbon credit project. Jack and the team here have a lot of expertise in M&A, and whereas I come in on the technical side on the due diligence. But we are reviewing a lot of opportunities. We expect to review many more. We will look for the ones that have the best fit for the company, that can generate revenue in the as quickly as possible in the near to medium term. And there will be opportunities across the green economy. So we have started out in metals, but we see really good potential in other areas such as renewable energy, carbon credits, potentially solar or wind related projects. So there's lots of opportunities out there. It's a huge growth space. Europe has to meet its targets for net zero emissions, and we look to capitalize on those opportunities.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, it's been great speaking with you both, and we wish you every continued success in progressing existing projects and, of course, identifying new ones. Aiden Lavelle and Jack Kelly, respectively Chief Executive and Chief Finance Officer at European Green Transition, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.